Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special meeting of council this February 16th at 6 p.m. We have a few things on the docket tonight, so we could move right into it. But first of all, I'd like to ask if there are any disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none. Our first note isn't on your agenda. What it is that I've contacted councillors indicating that a motion to be brought forward this evening, and I will read a motion, and if it is seconded and meets the 2/3 agreement, then I can continue on with a new motion. I hereby move that the motion regarding support of Bill 197 be introduced without the notice required of section 16.1.1 of the procedural bylaw, and that on the affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, this motion be considered at tonight's special council meeting. Do I have a seconder that could support this? Thank you, Councillor Lesser. I do not believe we discuss anything on this. It's either a vote yay or nay. Those opposed to this motion? Seeing none, thank you. In response to some feelings within the municipalities that Bill 197 should be changed as such, there are a few municipalities, especially myself and certainly Southwest Oxford, that feel that it'd be very nice if it remained the same and stayed the same. I put together a letter that I would like to see go to Premier Ford and certainly to Minister York, and copied Ernie Hardeman, and also go to the press, that just solidifies our support of Bill 197 and what it does and says. I will read that letter to you now, if I may. In July of 2020, on behalf of the province of Ontario, Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Jeff Urick, announced that Bill 197 would require that for an applicant to complete an environmental assessment for a proposed landfill, that they must get local support from the host municipality and any other municipality within 3.5 kilometers. In the case of the Walker environmental proposal in our area, Bill 197 requires support from all of the councils of Ingersoll, Southwest Oxford, and Zora. The Council of the Town of Ingersoll supports Bill 197 as it gives our council a definitive voice in the approval process. We thank and applaud the province for recognizing the voices of all the people who could potentially be impacted by this proposal. The Town of Ingersoll fully recognizes Bill 197 is limited to proposals for landfills only and does not impact ability and responsibility of municipalities to make planning decisions for their local communities. Would be signed by myself, Mayor Edward J. Comiskey, the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll. I feel that both Southwest Oxford and myself feel that we need to make a statement, certainly in the positive aspect of what the province has done for us, and to send that through and recognize it. And I believe that Mayor Mayberry is having a meeting this evening, which he is hoping to have the motion, the same letter, to be read and passed, and hopefully, I'm saying hopefully, unanimously, so that we can put on the bottoms of this letter that all members of council voted in favor unanimously. And hopefully then that we will do, if both municipalities approve, then they will go together, and I will make note of that move together as far as the letters get combined, or they would be separate letters sent separately in one envelope as such, kind of a thing. And so, but we'd like it that if they were combined, that they were a group and the mayors moving in that direction. So if I can, I will read the motion and then we could talk, or would you like to, I have Councillor Petrie asking a question now. Yes, Councillor.
I'm just saying that I'd be more than happy to second your motion.
Thank you, kind sir.
And I'd ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you. The motion reads, move that the Council of the Town of Ingersoll endorse the Mayor's letter in support of Bill 197 and that it be sent to Premier Ford and to Minister Urick and copied Ernie Hardeman and to the press. This knowing that this letter may be combined with other municipalities who also may show support through the coordination of the mayor. What we'd like to do is to figure out if it is approved by Southwest Oxford, then we would move it forward. This is moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Petrie. Discussion? Clerk, do you call for the count?
Yes, I can call for the count. I'll call each councillor individually, and then please state whether yay or nay for the motion. Councillor Lesser?
Yay.
Councillor Hughes?
Yay.
Your Worship, Mayor?
Yay.
Deputy Mayor Fred Freeman?
Yay.
Councillor Petrie?
Yay.
And Councillor Van Kooten Bosons?
Yay.
Thank you.
Be unanimous.
Thank you very much for that support. Not support for me on that letter, but support for the town and to recognize its importance to the ministry and to certainly thank them, continually thank them for what they have done. We have now, continuing on in our open session, we have special reports. Return to COVID response framework. Mr. Taggart, would you be taking this?
I will start off. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Council, I'm sure, has had ample opportunity to read the comprehensive report that's been put together by our Director of Community Services. Obviously, we're dealing with complex and challenging issues around the pandemic and operating our facilities. I think what I will say before I turn it over to Kyle to ask any questions, obviously we have a delegation that's going to be joining us later. I believe it's from the Ingersoll Minor Hockey Association. So my suggestion would be Council wouldn't take any action on this report until after you've had an opportunity to listen to the delegation, and then you can circle back to provide the direction that you wish to give to staff at that time. So I turn it over to the director, and I'm sure we're both here able to answer questions that Council might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So as Bill outlined, staff have put together a very comprehensive report for Council to be able to review. I haven't received any questions from Council over the weekend, but now would be the opportunity to ask any questions of clarification about the reports or any of the details in it. And either myself or Bill could provide answers.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Councillors, questions at this point in time? Mr. Taggart has pointed out that what we'll do is Kyle, if there are no questions or questions can come back after, we might have delegation come forward as part of your presentation as such, and then we can again go into further discussion on the motion as such.
Okay.
Are there questions before we go to delegations at all from Council? Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Kyle, thank you for the report. In the report, it does mention that you have at this point in time have only heard from minor hockey as a user group wanting to use the arena, and had not heard from the skating group. Council has since over the weekend heard from the figure skating organization, and I requested that they send you the information as well as our clerk and CAO. Have you received that?
I have received it. So the report outlines that no other user group has expressed an interest in extending the season.
Okay.
There are other user groups that would operate in red, figure skating being one of them, but the report outlines that minor hockey is the only user group that has requested an extension.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I believe that the figure skating club did say that they would be able to extend, but have since I've received a message that they would not be able to.
Okay. Michael, could you now, it would be possible to bring in Jason Graham and Bill Krajewski? I hope I pronounced that correct.
Yes, I think I'm only seeing one of them in the waiting room.
Okay. Good evening, Bill. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Good. Mr. Krajewski, please, right now what we're doing, just so you know, I'm not too sure if you overheard where you are, but what we're doing is putting you within the motion for information gathering purposes so that we can then discuss afterwards Kyle's report and also your delegation. So
Okay.
if you'd like to, at this point in time, present, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Most certainly. Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Komsky, Deputy Mayor Freeman, councilors, staff. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come forward to present some information as a representative of the Ingersoll and District Minor Hockey Association. I haven't spoke in front of such a large group in a long time, so forgive me if there's anything that I'm not following protocol, or if you have any questions, maybe make notes.
You're doing great.
Go. Thank you. So I guess my history isn't that much of a needed to be spoken about, but I have been a member or a resident of Ingersoll since 1985. Used the Ingersoll facilities, the arena, the soccer fields, and the outdoor pool in my youth and growing up here in town. Now my kids use the arena, the soccer fields, and the indoor facility and the pool. So it's nice to see we're making progress there. Four of the main things that I'd like to touch base on behalf of IDMHA as the vice president is basically the reopening of the arena, possibly other facilities. I'd like to address the safety of the opening of those facilities. Financials, again, that's more of a strong point to staff, but I'd like to speak to that as well. And then last but not least, on a possible extension and how we can look at that going forward. As far as the reopening of the facility, IDMHA has collected all registration fees from our members at the beginning of this season. We were one of the few associations to do so because of the COVID going on, not knowing how long facilities could stay open. A lot of organizations typically took a few $100s to get them through to Christmas to see what the new year would bring. Because we were concerned once we made teams, if people backed out, it would be hard to get more registration fees and make new teams based on new registration. So we were lucky enough to collect all registration, and we are looking forward to finishing a full season with our memberships. Based on that reopening, we already have all of our teams are made. They are all 10 or under as mandated by the OMHA. We were only allowed to roster a coach and a trainer, so limited to 2 staff members on each team, again, mandated by OMHA. This is already in place, and if we get to go to orange at some point, we already have our 50, our groups of 50 players per league maximum. That's already set up. So yeah, we are ready to reopen. We worked well with staff To go through Orange, we have all electronic COVID screening. We provide that information through to staff. And we had done that before Christmas. We don't see much of a need for change, even in red. The only change would be just we limited it to the 10, the players, the guardians, and our coaching staff, filling out the same paperwork as we did in Orange and providing it to the town. So we see that we can continue on as we've already practiced. As far as safety is concerned, we've been with COVID now for a year. There's guidelines that are now in place to deal with the different levels of, I guess, spread in the community and danger. Testing is now widely available to limit possible spread, and protocols are in place as well. This is not new, even though there are new variants. We've dealt with this for a year now, and all of right down from the Canadian government and Hockey Canada to the Ontario government and the Ontario Hockey Federation to our minor hockey associations, and in dealing with the town facilities and staff already. It also looks like we can change, or Southwest Public Health has the ability to change our colored tiers within 14 days now and not 28 days. So again, quicker recognition, better testing, and the ability to go up and down levels as needed in each local area. So we're glad to see that. We feel that we can open safely as we have done so far this year in red and continue into orange. Based on the safety protocol, I would actually, Your Worship, like to single out Kyle as a member of the staff. Earlier this season, as vice president of Ingersoll Minor Hockey, one of my major jobs is to deal with getting pictures done for our association. Because of masks and not being able to take off masks in facilities and having your picture done, Kyle, in working with Southwest Public Health and Ingersoll having the Fusion Youth Group, because youth center, because we could not utilize the arena while it was being used, while there was an ice user on it, we were able to use the gymnasium at Fusion Youth Center and follow proper protocol to be able to have our pictures done here in town for our association this year. We were the second association for our photographer to be able to do so. He has lost a lot of business in pictures this year, so it was great to see that staff in general and Kyle in particular has stepped up to help get us through that in the beginning of the season safely. As far as financials, I don't know where to touch there. We're ready to rent the ice. We're ready to pay our full pop for a couple months. So I think that would help the town financials, basic, if we can, rent those facilities. As far as if we've been shut down for a couple months already, perhaps an extension into the savings perceived by unfortunate staff layoffs and facility running closed, the 2 months of that could potentially pay for an opening in April, which is, we all agree, a little bit of a higher cost. Again, don't know the particulars. Just from an outsider's perspective, perhaps there's something there. At the end of the day, we're not asking for anything that hasn't already been provided year over year to us through renting the ice, except for possibly an extension in April. But we would just like to finish out our season. Even if we only reopen, if it takes a couple weeks and we reopen March 1st, I don't see an issue with that. If we can change from red to orange in a 14-day window, by the time we hit the ice in early March, we may already be in orange and our kids can play games. If not, we go for another week or two in red where they train, and they stay, they're 2 meters or 3 meters apart on the ice. I've got lots of drills for that because I can't tell you how many times I wanted our kids to separate on the ice during games. They all go to the puck. You can throw a blanket over all 10 skaters on the ice. And so if we can force them to stay away, it will only help their skill and ability this season. So lots of drills for that. So if we can get open, part of the reopening too, I did forget to touch base on this in reopening. I noticed the paperwork that had all the facilities around and arenas probably similar to ours that have closed or taken out their ice. And yeah, it's quite a spread, and a lot of people have closed and decided to take out their ice. Most of these facilities provided here were either in red prior to taking out their ice and had lost their major ice user. So I can see why they would take out their ice. I am glad that council has decided to prolong it as much as possible to keep the ice in, so that we're at this point now discussing how we're going to reopen safely. There weren't many Southwest Public Health arenas on here except for Zora. I believe now that Tempsford has agreed to stay open through March, and Embro is talking about possibly extending into April. I contacted 10 other arenas that we typically play at that I didn't notice on this list that are all closer. I did not find one that has closed. I was wondering if Ingersoll was an outlier, if we were going against the grain by trying to stay open, but it looks like the arenas and everything in our area are comfortable in opening. Elmer has Elmer, Belmont, Dorchester, Paris, Norwich, Burford, Delhi, Tillsonburg, Ayr, all arenas that we typically play at any given season. Elmer has taken their ice out, but they will be putting, once we reopen here, they will be putting another pad in. They typically keep one pad in all season long, all year long. But a lot of these facilities are for rent today, ready to go. Belmont is opening Thursday because they have to recall staff. But Tillsonburg is keeping both ice pads in, still have them in. And as far as I know, our Tillsonburg Minor Hockey Association, they had folded the season. They are now looking to do something on weekends to utilize that ice, but it is there and available. So I was unable to find any arenas locally that have decided to close up shop. And most of these are in Southwest Public Health. I feel that we can do the same and staying open and staying safe. The first thing is to reopen. The last thing I would just like to touch on, and some of this is more for clarification for myself. If staff or council, your worship, could clarify, but on particular the reopening in April, I know we provided some information about the average temperature. I'm sure there's more to it than just average temperatures in the area. I will speak to when we had our gala at the arena in mid-April a couple of years ago. It was freezing cold when we got in there in the morning. Ingersoll Rental was gracious enough to donate a 400,000 BTU heater, which we ran for, I don't know, from 10 or 11 in the morning, as long on full bore, trying to get some heat into the arena facility, so our gala participants were not freezing. So the cement was cold. Ice had been removed for a couple weeks, and I do believe that facility can handle it. I will speak to the condition of the ice this year. Has been fantastic. I'm not sure if that's in regards to less usage or more time in between users. But I do remember a few years ago, before we had some maintenance done there last year, I believe, town has, where we had OMHA games where referees come from out of town for those higher end playoff games. and they had to delay the game because we did have water on our ice down by the Zamboni end, and staff came out, shoveled that off. We let it freeze for another 5 minutes and we continued play. I have not seen any water on the ice this year from my kids playing, from when I played on Wednesday nights. It's been in excellent shape this year. And I just don't want to, if once we reopen, hopefully the decision is to reopen. I don't want to be, and if we can extend it, I don't want to be driving by the arena in April and having to tell our members that we weren't able to play here, where, you know, we got frost on the roof, naturally occurring ice, but the facility can't handle the ice. It's just a hard one to explain. It's a hard one to wrap my head around. So if our ice plant can't handle it, it can't handle it. There's nothing we can do about that. I just like some further clarification or information on that. If once we get reopened, we can go in. Now, if we can open in a week and have skates on in a week, then we only need a couple weeks, you know, in red, get our players going. And then we're looking at maybe 1 or 2 weeks into April. The sooner we start, the sooner we can give our members the 8 weeks of ice they've paid for, and we can continue on with the hockey season. I do have maybe other stuff I can allude to, but basically on those 4 topics, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them or expand on them or clarify.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you. I see Jason is here now. Good evening, Jason. Is there anything further you want to add to, or just support in any questions that are coming up?
Well, first of all, Your Worship, Mayor Kaminsky and councilors, I want to apologize for being late. It's been one of those days, and trying to get off other calls has been quite interesting. No, I don't want to add anything to that. Just that we want the direction from you guys. We want to be able to go back to our membership and say, hey, we've done everything possible. Yes, being in red does restrict us to a little bit. The nice part is that we are strictly going to be in our bubbles. Our bubbles being that if it's 10 kids, it's going to be 10 kids and the coach and the trainer, and that's it. We're not having, Kyle, just so you're aware, we're not having Tilsonburg come in to play us now because of the fact that they've already folded their system. We still have a bubble with Thamesford. But again, that has already been in place prior to us being shut down. And I think we've gone a little bit above and beyond because of the pandemic. We've gone out this year to make sure that people are being safe, buying them face coverings. So every member, every player on our association and coaches are to have our face coverings, our Ingersoll face coverings. We've also gone out to make sure that we're not passing around jerseys and such, that they've all have their own jersey. It's a reversible jersey. If that's theirs, they wash it. Nobody else gets to borrow it. So we're trying to take everything from a safety aspect as possible as what we can as well. So regarding the safety issue, I just wanted to address that because I know that's a big ploy in addressing and looking at whether we can open or not, but I wanted to stress that.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Kyle, as far as the question which Bill brought forward, which you could, I think you've talked to us in the past, and certainly the report on the costs around April, if on extension as such. On it all depends on temperature. I mean, I've almost froze to death on 24th of May weekend, let alone April. But I know that the cost on keeping something open when the temperature rises. Is it something that can be you can ride for the 2 to 3 weeks into April, and if the ice starts to go, we're done? Would that be is it too costly to run on that kind of a direction, or is it something that we could work with?
So it really, as I outlined in the report, it really all comes down to what is the exterior temperature. Mm-hmm. So as I said in the report, we may be able to get a couple weeks if the weather is okay, but we will eventually reach a point where it is not maintainable anymore.
Yeah.
As I outlined in the report, staff have experienced both extending the season and starting the season early. And in both cases, they did not work out well. The ice became very soft. The windows fogged up, the ice fogged up. So we're talking about very unsafe conditions. Really, all that matters is there's no insulation in that exterior of that building. So if you get heat in the building, which Bill alluded to when minor hockey had their gala, the floor area can still be warm, but once there's heat in the facility, you start dealing with significant dehumidification issues, which then erodes away at your ice. And that's how come we get melting along the sides of the boards. So I've talked about a crystal ball before. I'm not a meteorologist, so I can't predict what the spring is going to be like. If it's colder, then we'll be able to maintain ice for longer. If it's warmer, we will not. And knowing exactly how long we'll be able to go is impossible to do without. We would have to take it almost day by day, week by week, depending on what the temperatures are and our ability to safely maintain ice.
Thank you, Kyle. Jason, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, just a question in regard to that. Mayor, when Kyle's indicating that we've asked for extensions in the past, I can tell you right now, minor hockey has not, because our OMHA playdowns have to be done by a certain date, and we've asked to host the B regional finals in Ingersoll and have been told we can't because the arena shuts down the last weekend in March, right after Carnival. So I guess my question is, like, I don't know how we know that the ice is soft in April. Like this year, like Bill has said, we have had issues in the past with ice being the water condensation on the glass, issues with the ice being soft, having to take a day off to let it get a little bit cooler. The ice is a lot better this year, and I think it could be because of the fact that we've put in some new machinery at the arena. So
okay,
I guess my question is just how do we know that it's going to be bad in April this year?
Christy, you have a question?
I do. Do you have, and I'm not asking for a crystal ball, but I mean, in September, traditionally it's warmer in September than it is in April. And yet we can put the ice in and have it in for September. It might be a bit soft, but then if people are off. So I guess my question is, do you know what that magical degree outside is? Because I'll be honest, when I'm out on a ball field in May, it's freezing in May and April. I don't even want to practice in April because it's so cold. But yet September, we're playing right through until usually the second last weekend of September. So I'd have to agree with the minor hockey. It's usually warmer in September than it is in April. So is it a temperature? Like, what's that magic temperature?
I'll try my best here. So there's no exact science to it. A lot of it has to do with overnight lows, your difference between highest temperature, lowest temperature, your humidity in the air. It is drier in the winter. I know that minor hockey's talking about some of the upgrades to the ice plant. The facility as a whole, regardless of having a new condenser, is not conducive. We have extended in my time with the town to allow for playdowns to happen into April. We have also tried for minor hockey to start early, and we ran into some pretty significant capital upgrades and capital repairs to dehumidification units because the units could not keep up. So staff do have experience in warmer temperatures trying to operate that facility. And not in my time here, so this was in speaking to my staff, they have mentioned melting along the boards, especially on the south side, the sunny side of the arena happens, and they've had to put pylons out before. I've told them that will never happen while I am as director. If the ice gets to that point that is that unsafe, that we will not be using it. We won't be putting pylons out to avoid the unsafe areas. So I'm taking the knowledge from the staff that have, some of them worked in the facility for over 20 years, and my experience in the town, to know that I have seen conditions that are unsafe and not conducive for maintaining ice. So as I outline in the report, we may get a couple weeks because I don't know what the temperatures are going to be, but there will be a point at which the weather gets warm enough that heat gets inside the building. There is no way for that heat to escape, so it gets trapped in the top. You start getting dehumidification issues. The plant starts to run consistently, and when the plant can't keep up, it will not drive the ice temperature down. It will either hold or continue to increase. And so when we start to see that happening, that is when we have to pull the ice because it would be unsafe. So it's monitoring the exterior conditions, the conditions of the plant, and the conditions of the ice. And the plant is not intended to run continually, nor are the dehumidification units. So you're adding additional strain to be able to make that happen. The difference in September is there is no ice and there is no humidity in the building until you start making ice. So when you start the plant, you are bringing down the slab temperature on its own. So you're taking all of the heat out of the building when you start. When you are trying to maintain ice, it is different because the ice is already there. So you aren't just taking the heat out of the building without any ice on it. So the opposite ends of the spectrum are very different when you're talking about no ice at all and slowly building up over time, as opposed to maintaining an inch and a half of ice.
All right. Thank you. I have Councillor Lesser first, then back to Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Okay. Actually, question for Jason and Bill. Hearing some of the discussion, if we should decide to extend the ice into April, and we get a real bad warm spell, and unfortunately we can't give you the full amount of weeks that you would like, I guess, does minor hockey realize that obviously if the ice gets really bad, we're going to have to pull it and you're going to lose part of the season? There's just not much we can do about that. Has that been explained to the membership?
I'll take this, Bill. In regards to that question, sir, Councilor Lessler, is that we haven't come across that yet, but it would be the same response we would give if it was another COVID shutdown. If we can't guarantee safety out on that ice, then there's no way we want our members out there. So it would be the same thing. Unfortunately, we would lose part of a month or a week or 2 weeks, but then our members would have to accept that. Our biggest thing right now is to try and give them something that we've lost because we have the opportunity to do it right now.
Yeah. So. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, no, you're fine. Further questions?
That was going to be my question as well. So I just wanted to find out from them. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Delegation, I thank you very much for your participation. What we will do is through the motion that's brought to council today, that'll be through a discussion of council, and a decision will be made tonight, likely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jason. And you take care of yourselves.
Take care. You too.
Stay safe.
Okay, that was the arena and potentially the arena extension. Kyle, through you, Bill, I'm not directing your staff or anything. Did you want to go through Victoria Park Center and the Fusion Center, and then we come back to vote, or do you want to take one at a time? How would you like to deal with that?
Mr. Mayor, it's entirely up to council. So we're just looking for staff direction on what you want open when, and we'll do our best to do it within the restrictions that are placed upon us under the legislation.
Okay, then with council's permission, what we could do right now is I could write down on here, the motion kind of lists A, B, C, and D, which is arena extension of the season, Victoria Park Community Center, and Fusion Center. What we could do right now is discuss, and I could put down notation behind that, and then we can, at the end, we can make the motion, which includes all those details pertaining to it. So as far as the arena is concerned, not the extension at this point in time, if I'm under the impression that how do we want administration to proceed with the arena itself, to open it with the red regulations going to orange regulations for the for up to the last week of March? Is that our consensus? Councillor Hughes?
Yes. My own personal opinion is I would like to see the arena opened up under the red restrictions, and then of course transition to orange if and when we go to orange. It's good to know that the health board can direct and change within a 14-day period. So possibly by the end of February, we could be back into orange, which is good news. But at the end of the day, as staff, as Kyle, by the way, that's a terribly in-depth report. I read it three times just so I made sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you very much, Kyle. You must have spent quite a bit of time after Monday night on that. I truly appreciate the time and effort that you put into all of this. Understanding that, you know, the modeling from the provincial and federal government say that it's possible we could have another surge, possibly in April, excuse me, by the variants. That's a possibility. We could also not. I know they're the experts. I am not. I'm in the transportation industry. I'm not in the public health and epidemiology or anything else in that regard. So, but at the same time, as long as we follow our strict requirements as we have been and as we did back in the fall when we were in orange and that, and seeing that sadly most of the cases have been in long-term care facilities, and we all struggle with trying to accept that. I think, you know, we should look at moving forward, again, following public health red guidelines. You guys have done a fantastic job in the Public Works Department, making sure that everybody that is coming into our facilities are safe, and that they go home safe as well. So again, I'd like to thank you, number one. Number two, that you worked so well with the hockey team, the hockey league earlier this year, or sorry, the end of last year, in regards to the photos team photos that they were able to take. That's amazing. That shows great dedication and to your job, and can't speak much higher of the fact that the town is very lucky to have you as a community service director. Having said that, again, I'll just circle back and say that I'm for favor of for the arena opening it up and getting things moving along, and hopefully we'd be able to get the rest of their year in.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Lesser.
I'm going to basically follow along with Rick, just saying in the case of the arena, I've said it before, and I'd like to see us be able to keep the arena open at least until the end of March. Again, I know community services has a tough time because it's fairly involved with cleaning processes and that. But we need to offer something to the children out there, a chance to do something, even if they can't play hockey games, at least they get out to stretch their legs. I'll just say, let's keep the arena open.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman. We'll be back.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I have to concur with the other two councillors. I think that we're in red, and hopefully we'll go to orange. We're seeing our numbers come down, so let's try and be optimistic and give something back to the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, all of you know I've been pushing for our arena to open, and Kyle, I agree with Councillor Hughes. It's an amazing report. I too read through it numerous times this past weekend. However, you have to be on the safe side, and I get that. And you have to point out all the things that you did in your report, and I thank you for that. However, I do want to see this open it up. It's the mental health of our community needs this as well. The kids, there's adults out there. There's an older adult range that would really like to get back out on the ice as well. And I'm hoping that 10 of them will go together and go out and train, because that's how we have to state it. It has to be training, not practicing or anything else. They have to go out and train while we're in the red, if that's the case. Are we going to do it probably at a loss? Yes. But in all of my time on council, has our arena, our fusion center, and our Victoria Park Community Center ever ran in the positive? No. Why? Because it is a service that we provide to our community. So we may lose some money. Honestly, as much as I love our town, I don't care about the money. I want the kids to be able to have something in this community. I think it's safer than them being out on ponds or anywhere else that we've asked them not to be. If it becomes unsafe, I really want to thank you for the explanation of the ice. I was sitting here trying to figure out why is it that one can't, the other, and so thank you. I appreciate that explanation. So I would like, I know we didn't offer public skating before, but I would really like us to look at it. I know that there is a whole thing around our staff being called back underneath the union. However, if they're willing to come back, then I think we should. Let's get them back in earlier. If it takes us a week to get them back in, then it takes us a week. But I'm hearing from within the community that staff are wanting to get back to work. If we have to lay them off, then we lay them back off. There's no harm in that. They go back on their EI. The EI is not as stringent as it was before. Under COVID times, we have that opportunity that we can bring them back from layoff, and then they can go back to that if that's what has to happen. So I know I'm going completely against your report, Kyle, and I hope you understand that it's me looking at the mental health of our community and really wanting to see it open back up for that. And let the kids have some time on the ice and some adults if that's what they choose to do. I am praying that we go to Orange and that they'll be able to scrimmage and play games. But if nothing else, if they get the time to train, then they get the time to train. So I think that's all. I agree with all the other three counselors, and I apologize for repeating anything. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Worship. I think everything has been said that could be said, but on the same token, again, I think everyone knows how I feel as well about the arena. Being able to open it, even if it's for a short period of time, whether it be red or orange, I certainly am in hope that we'll be able to get to orange. And I feel that, I know I have faith in our staff that if the ice were to get dangerous in any way, shape, or form, that they would be able to take care of that, as in stop any risk or mediate any risk. And also, again, as far as the public health is concerned, if the variants do have an effect on us and it gets worse, I have faith in our public health system be able to say, hey, you know what, we need to go the opposite direction. And if we do, then we do. Then so be it. But I do believe we need to offer as much as we possibly can to our community to get people out and together as even as little as they possibly can. So thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Petrie? I know you don't have your hand up, but I believe everyone has had a chance to speak except for myself yet, but please.
No, you go ahead, your mayor, your worship. I don't think I have anything to add to the conversation at this point.
Thank you. My only thought is I'd love everything to get back to normal. And we have no control on that right now. Mental health is very important in the fact of getting out and being able to do things in society, because it has such an effect on the psyche, but so does physical health. So the thing is that can we do our best, which we will, to play safe, to work safe. So we're going outside that safety bubble zone and we're going to have the arena opened. We have to do everything we possibly can to have both mental and physical health number one, and to maintain that. We certainly do need to get out and work with the community and get out into physicalness. That is a need right now. But we can't put it beyond the safety aspect. We're calling upon you, Kyle, to look at the safety aspect of the ice and certainly to monitor to make sure that all the rules and regulations under red, orange, etc., are maintained and looked after. I do agree that we need to open our arena. We need to get things moving. And if we can do it safely, then yes. Cost? Yes, it will be a cost. But I do agree with Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens that we haven't had the Fusion open. We haven't had the arena open. We haven't had different facilities open. But these were facilities that we supported monetarily wise for years upon years and will continue to do so. They don't pay for themselves. So right now, I suppose when it says reason not the cost, or look at the idea that we need to put a little out there to make sure that some people get some exercise. I do agree that it shouldn't be locked into the hockey organizations as such, that we got to have public skating out there, and a lot of it to be able to offset, to expand the need, put it that way, to open this facility and keep it rolling for the number of players is one thing, but to be able to open it up for skating, for open skating, public skating, and keeping through the regulations and the proper guidelines to public skating that would be necessary to monitor are something that is seriously needed. So if I put right down right now at this point in time that as far as the opening is concerned, that the arena, that we open the arena, I will just put that note beside that number A. If I could, if there's nothing else, to continue on to the arena, extending the season. Since we can go backwards through the whole list if we want to, and that is that I agree with extending it, and I respect Kyle's knowledge. And if the ice becomes questionable, then we're done. And if the hockey associations are fully aware that if the ice becomes unsafe, they're done. As long as everybody going into this today, everybody going into this knows what's going to happen, knows what the rules and regulations are. Heck, like I said, I've pretty near froze to death on May 24th weekends. We could have a cold April, but you could have a hot one too. You know, it could warm up, but I think if it's properly monitored and we extend it and take advantage of every opportunity we have of keeping it in line and open to the rules and regulations that are governing us, then I would support it. Going back through, I did ask Councillor Petrie, who did not reply to the first moment because everything was said. Councillor Petrie, would you have anything to say on the extension? No? I go back up now to Deputy Mayor Freeman.
I'm in agreement with your worship that we extend it as long as we can. Again, based on the quality of the ice.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
I'm going to defer to our CAO. I think he's he'd raised his hand a couple of times, so I'll let him speak at this point.
I will let him speak at the end if that's okay.
Oh,
so you have nothing to say?
Sorry, I do. I would agree with extending it as long as the temperature and the ice are safe for it to continue into April for as long as ever it can.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I tend to agree with the comments that have been made already. I trust Kyle's judgment is to let us know when our facilities become unsafe for both our equipment and the participants. So I agree with.
Thank you, Councillor Lesser.
Going to join everybody else and say the same thing. If we can extend the season into April, I'd like to see us try. Hopefully it works. All we can do is give it a shot.
Councillor Hughes. You're muted. You're muted, Councillor.
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong mouse. I got a couple mouse going in here. Yes.
Plural is mice.
Oh, sorry. Plural is, that's correct. Yes. Thank you. I thought my daughter was the grammar king. Yes, I agree with extending according to ice conditions.
Thank you. Like to ask now, Mr. Tiger.
Well, if Kyle's satisfied, I guess the 2 points I wanted to make is the request was for extending it into April and May. So is council saying extend it as long as possible, extend it till April 30th if possible, extend it into April as long as we can? We'd like some direction, and I think the user groups would like that direction too. And the second point that I wanted clarification on is throughout the 2021 season, we've not offered public skating just because of the onus of trying to track and trace. And, with red, so is it council's intention, and fine if it is, but just give us that clear direction if you want us to resume public skating as well. So I just want a clarification on those two things.
Thank you. Thank you. Kyle, would you speak on those two things? Number one, I only thought that we were looking at April in that sense. The request may have been for April, May, but my hope would be to go as long as you could into April, and or to go to the end of the hockey season as such. If they close out the first 2 weeks or first 3 weeks, then you could be done, and we could have done our best to have facilitated what we could. But I didn't realize into May. I wasn't thinking of it. My thought was to go as long as we can into April. But Kyle, please.
So the date we're talking about here is more based off minor hockey's request to extend into April and May. So it's not a date that I've set out. So that's council's decision on how long you want to try to extend the ice season for based upon minor hockey's request. I heard them say in the report tonight that they're really only looking for 8 weeks. So if we're able to resume as of March 1st, as the report outlines, we could be done by the end of April if ice conditions allow.
That's
the second point, and Bill makes a great point to bring this up. So we have not offered public seating for 2 reasons. A, it requires additional staff to be able to screen and track and trace. So essentially, so I can describe to all of council so you can understand when you make this decision, you would need a staff to do screening, track and trace. You need an additional part-time staff to be able to clean and sanitize. Plus you have the full-time unionized staff. So you would have 3 staff working to right now have 10 people in the facility. So it would require 3 staff to have the 10 people. The other part that then ends up happening, all of the other user groups, I attached the schedule to my report. They have their scheduled ice time that we invoice them for once they use it. There's been a common misconception that they prepay for ice. That is not true. They pay for ice after they use it. So they have their set times that they rent right now. If we were to add in public skating, we would be taking away from minor hockey, figure skating, rental ice time right now, plus having to add in buffer times because you cannot have 10 people on the ice and 10 people in the lobby. So if you have 10 people in for public skate, all 10 of those people have to leave. We have to clean and sanitize the entire facility before the next group of 10 people can come in.
Gotcha.
So it's not as simple as it would appear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for, I took it on the simple aspect, and now I understand that it's not. I have Deputy Mayor Freeman and then Councillor Lesser.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I guess public skating for 10 people, considering everything you have to go through, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess I was thinking more so of Orange if we were allowed to have 50, but then there comes the tracing, as our CAO had alluded to. So I guess I'm fine with not having the public skating if that's the safer way to go. Then that's okay.
Councillor Lesser?
I'm going to say I was just assuming we were extending to the end of April for the hockey season. I'd like the idea of being able to offer public skating if it's I would say myself, if it's feasible. First, we're trying to satisfy the user groups. If it doesn't leave us enough time to realistically do it, then we don't have public skating. I can live with that.
Sounds good.
For me, Your Worship, also end of April is what I was thinking as well, and not into May.
Okay, so on the second note of the, I'm sorry, Councillor Hughes, yes?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, yes, the end of April or till whenever we're not able to keep the ice in where it's unsafe. And thank you, Mr. Tigert and Kyle, for bringing us all, I believe, from the unknown to the known regarding the public skating and the processes that are required. I know it can be quite time consuming and resource consuming, having to do all that sanitization in between user groups, and for 10 it would be very difficult. Yes, I remember reading that in your report as well. I was going to bring that up, but Mr. Tiger beat me to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the note I'm putting on, for further discussion is to the end of April or ice condition. So it would be, it ends at the end of April. If it's short of that because of ice conditions, then so be it. We respect the judgment of Kyle to say that. Is that consensus? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
I have a quick question. I know that they moved March break at this point in time to April. If the ice were open, still in, I want to clarify that. If the ice was still in and we were in orange, how many people would be allowed, Kyle, if we were to put public skating into effect at that point?
50.
So orange would be 50 total in the facility at one time.
Okay.
So you could, if you put in 50, then you have to have a cleaning and sanitization period before the next group would come in. If it's only 25 that would be at public seating, then you can rotate groups of 25. So you could have 25 on the ice and the next user group have 25 to not have to have the sanitization block buffer period.
So if I may, Your Worship, follow up on that one. I know at VPCC, when you have users coming in to go to classes, there is a form that is sent electronically to each user. Would we be able to implement something like that if the ice, and I am speaking in hypotheticals, but if the ice was in, yes, it might be a little bit more onerous, but could we do something like that, like at VPCC, to get some of that screening out of the way as well at the arena for something such as public skating just during March break?
We would have to follow all relevant Board of Health protocols, which would require pre-registration, pre-screening, and all of that. So similar to VPCC, all of that would have to happen at the arena, or we can't do it.
Okay.
The difference at the arena is VPCC has front desk reception staff that does that. The arena does not.
What's the date? Is it the 12th of April?
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
The 12th of April, sorry, it's the 12th of April that starts the April break.
Yeah, instead of March break.
That starts the April break. So I'm saying that the end of March or the last week in March, if we had a situation that we could be below orange at that point in time, right? There's potential. There is a potential. We don't know, but why don't we leave that, the March break situation for open skating or whatnot till something like the end of March or middle of March or whatever, we kind of have a better eye on what it's looking like.
I just simply asked because Mr. Tigert had asked us to give direction, and I'm hearing what rest of council saying, and I agree at this point in time. Let's not do public skating. I'm not looking to take away from the user groups that are already in there. That wasn't the whole plan in that respect for me, but I just, if we say no public skating whatsoever, then that's not even on the radar and to be thought about if we're not thinking about public skating for March break or the March break in April. That's why I brought that up. So I wanted to put that out there that if the ice is still in and it's usable, it would be another way of being able to use it during the day because the kids are no longer in school during April break.
Okay, further on that, I did put at the end of April or with the ice condition. Moving on now to Victoria Park. Sorry?
I was just going to say, did you want to put a notation in there regarding spring break, possible spring break public skating?
I can, if that's what council wants. I don't want to color it right now as if that's what it's going to be. I'd rather us take a look at that in March. You see,
okay.
these are motions that are for today.
Okay.
We can have another motion in March that says we close it now. You know, yeah. So we have some time to play with it a little bit.
Okay. All right. No problem.
No.
If it's a part of the motion that we're wanting them to look at this as a possibility, then at least it's on. Otherwise, one of us needs to remember to bring it back, and I will. I'll bring it back in March at the March meeting and remind staff that we had this conversation. I just thought if it's a part of the motion that it's there and then it's on the radar, that if we have ice in, if we can have public skating during the April break, then that would be the wish of council. If it's not the wish of council, then not a problem.
I just think that it's your motion, folks. It's this council's motion. So the thing is that we're trying to better it. So say the end of the extension of the season, the end of April, or ice conditions, and to consider April break for public skating. Is that what the council would like to see in there? Get some nods. Councillor Lesser?
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Your Worship. I'd rather, or Christy could bring it up at the March meeting. I'd rather wait till March to see what situation we're in and what we're at.
All right, I'm getting some nods on that. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, what you have, you own that one to bring it back.
I'm putting it in my time book right now.
Okay, Victoria Park Community Center. Kyle, did you want to comment before we talk to council?
Nothing really to highlight. Everything is in the report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. The caveat will be, as you're making these decisions, just be cognizant of the fact, as we outline in the report, that if a decision is only to open one facility and not all facilities, then it requires hiring the full-time unionized staff back first and potentially training them at a facility that they don't currently work at. So keep that in mind as we work through these next facilities.
Okay. If you could expand on that for me before we continue on. So if we open up Victoria Park, we can open up Victoria Park Community Center safely under red with the proper conditions. We can open up Fusion Center for the kids to come back with proper guidelines under red conditions if we keep proper process. Is that, am I correct in that?
What I'm trying to say is, so say if the decision is just to reopen the arena and not VPCC or Fusion, then all of the full-time unionized staff that work at VPCC or Fusion have to be recalled first before I can recall the part-time staff that would typically work at the arena. So then I would be training people that have never worked at the arena to then work at the arena.
Okay. So just to help
that would take longer to reopen then.
Okay, just to help us in our decision making. Now I'll go back to the question. The question was, is that can Victoria Park Community Center open up safely under red with the proper guidelines? We can open it. You do have the staff.
Safely is an ambiguous term, so that's up to council to decide what you feel comfortable and safe in doing. That is not my role. Is to provide the facts and information to you in the report.
Thank you.
What is safe is up to council to decide.
No, it isn't. What is safe is up to staff to be able to guarantee it. We won't be there wiping it down. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, but Victoria Park Community Center was open prior to Christmas. Was it while we were in red or only in orange?
So contrary to minor hockey's report, the Victoria Park Community Center has been open the entire time that the arena has been open and only closed in accordance with the provincial lockdown. So none of the facilities have been closed other than when they were required to be closed. And when we originally started, we weren't on the framework. Then the province initiated the framework. We didn't fall on it. Then we went to green. Then we skipped over yellow to orange. And then we went into the stay-at-home order. So none of the facilities have ever operated in red. We have plans that I've included in the outline. And going back to the mayor's previous question, yes, there are guidelines for every color on how to operate, but how you determine what is or what isn't safe, my definition could be different than everyone else's.
Okay, so if I may, for a follow-up, your worship, then. So when we were in orange, we were allowed 10 in the pool and 10 in the weight fitness area, correct?
No, it's complicated. So the max is 50 in any one facility, yes. But what actually matters is how many people you can hold while socially being distant. So fitness centers are actually required 3 meters of distance. So we can only have 7 people in the gym at one time, 7 people in a fitness class. And the pool is different depending on what program it is.
Okay.
And then it also gets complicated in orange, you can only be in a facility for 90 minutes. And if you are using the pool and the pool only, you technically don't count to the indoor gathering limits. But if you are using other parts of the facility, you count as one of the 50 the entire time you're in the facility.
Okay. So we could open in red with 10 in the pool and 7 in a fitness class then, if that's the case, or in the fitness area in that respect with being 3 meters apart then.
Yes, and staff attached to the report a schedule of what red could look like because staff have been prepared for all scenarios in case we were ever transferred to a color. We have plans for every color that meets all of the guidelines.
So, your worship, I will start it off in saying that I think that we should open Victoria Park Community Center as well. Again, following all the safety guidelines put in place by the Southwest Public Health and that Kyle and his staff have put in place. I think that it can be done safely, and I think that we should be going ahead with the Victoria Park Community Center. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Hughes, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'll agree with Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, but I'll take that one step further. I think we should also look at opening up the Fusion Center as well. Again, following all COVID protocols in the red zone. Yeah, unless there is, unless there is something that I'm not reading in Kyle's report, or if there's other things that we're not allowed to do at Fusion. I see we have maximum of 10 people indoors, maximum 25 outdoors, maintain 2 meter physical distancing. And I know it can be difficult with with some of the youth, but it's going to be what it's going to be. You have a problem sometimes with adults as well. No contact permitted for team or individual sports. Reading through the rest of the list, I think that our staff is considerable and trustworthy that they'll be able to maintain that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lesser, I believe you had your hand up next.
I was just going to say basically what's been said by the last two. Besides hockey or figure skating or so, we've said we need to offer something to the public. So not everybody is going to be a skater. Some of the kids, we've talked about the reason for having Fusion before is just they need a place to go. Same thing, some of the people want either the fitness center or the pool. If we can offer them something, we've got to start to offer them something. So if it's possible to do all three, I would like to see us try to push for all three. Save you asking me about Fusion later.
What's that?
It saves you asking me about Fusion in a couple minutes.
Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I guess all I wanted to state was I am in agreement with Victoria Park Community Center, but I thought we are dealing with these all separately, so I wanted them to be done separately if we could, because I wanted to hear if there was if basically we have enough staff for the youth center. So if you don't mind, Your Worship, can we just continue on?
Certainly can. Certainly can. Councillor Bowman. I got you, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, after I circled.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with the comments that are made. I do like Deputy Mayor's statement about doing each one individually so that we got the details. But yeah, I agree. We need to give something back, and if we can open in red safely, or what we would perceive to be safely, then why not?
Thank you. Councillor Petrie, this is on the Victoria Park.
I don't have anything further to add to the conversation at this point.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
My questions were going to be for Fusion. So once we're done with the Victoria.
Okay, so we've done the circle on that. I will say, Mr. Taggart, do you have any comment on the Victoria Park Community Center other than what Kyle said?
No, I think the only thing I would add is that we will open and try and administer the facilities subject to the guidelines required. And as the director said, safety is inherent within the guidelines, but we're not guaranteeing safely within our role. We'll try to administer the facilities toward the guidelines.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, moving on now to the Fusion Center. We've heard from Councillor Hughes. We'll go over to Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
So I have a question about the Fusion Youth Center, and that is a part of the reason why we had closed down Fusion was that the high school was in cohorts. So they're still in cohorts. Is that going to play an effect for Fusion? Or would we look at maybe only opening it up for 10, because our age dropped to 10 to 18 right now at Fusion. Maybe we would look at 10 to, 14 before they enter into high school. So those that are in grades 7 and 8, 6, 7, and 8. Sorry, my daughter's not that old yet. So I guess that's my question. Is it going to work for high school students, Kyle?
The tricky part with Fusion, as I outline in the report, is that staff at Fusion have been laid off for over a year. So the reopening of Fusion will take longer than the other facilities that were already reopened. And we won't be able to reopen until we have sufficient staffing resources in place. By the time that happens, we may be in a completely different situation in the pandemic. So trying to predict now what color and what restrictions would be will be very hard to do. We have plans for all scenarios on how programming will work in the facility, whether it's red, orange, yellow, or green. So staff are prepared to meet the guidelines in all scenarios. What's important to note with Fusion, and one of the biggest guidelines that affects community services, is that Fusion was a drop-in center where youth could come and go as they pleased. the guidelines right now, as a result of COVID, require pre-registration, pre-screening, signing of waivers. That all has to be done by a parent or guardian because they will not be of age. So it's a different world that Fusion will be than what the youth will be used to. So we have, as part of our plans on how to educate the youth on what they can and can't do in COVID times at Fusion. Staff have done an amazing job. So I want to thank all my staff who have the opportunity here. So a lot of the report that you see in front of you is because staff have spent countless hours assessing the guidelines and how they affect our operations so that we were always prepared to meet whatever happened in the pandemic. So that if we all of a sudden transferred to red, we were prepared because we jumped from green to orange and we're prepared. So I just want to thank them. Because a lot of the report you see in front of you is their hard work. And that we do ensure adherence to the guidelines and a lot of times go above and beyond to ensure, number one, my staff's safety, and number two, the community safety.
Kyle, as far as staffing goes, then for let's say we didn't open Fusion at this point in time because of it's a little bit different animal than the rest. If we didn't open it right away, staffing wise, is it still without Fusion? Is it still difficult staffing wise bringing back unionized and part-time?
No, it becomes less cloudy by having VPCC and the arena open. We could call back, we would have to call back the full-time unionized staff, but they could be deployed to help in other areas. So that's not as big of an issue as if it's only one facility.
Okay.
So having two facilities makes it easier from that perspective. But as I noted, a lot of these staff have been off for over a year. So if they are recalled, there's no guarantee that everyone will accept the recall. They may have found other jobs, moved, who knows?
Thank you. We're going along now with Fusion situation. Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Worship. I would prefer to defer Fusion's opening for at least another month, just because, again, there's so many times in the past that I had gone into Fusion, and the kids, it's all about hanging together. It's all about being close. It's all about, that's what Fusion was all about. And I just think it would be extremely difficult for staff to be able to keep an eye on them all. Of course, they're going to be told what to do, wear your mask, keep your distance, et cetera, et cetera. I think it would be difficult. I think it'd be very difficult, as Kyle was saying it again, and they've been off for a year. So bringing all those people back, if we can bring them back, we may have to hire more and then training, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So I think if we even deferred it for a month to the March meeting and discuss it at that point in time, and Kyle can perhaps give us an update on what he feels, how he feels staff can contribute more.
Councillor Bowman.
I apologize. My internet isn't working very well this evening, so I've been a little bit in and out. So, Deputy Mayor, you were asking for it. You were suggesting that it be deferred for another month, correct? The decision? You're muted, Fred. Okay. I see you nodding your head.
Yes, I am suggesting we wait until March to make a decision on opening Fusion.
Yes. Your Worship, I think I agree. One of my concerns was, from what I heard in the conversation of Deputy Mayor Freeman, was the staffing issue and wanting to know, where we stood, and if it's going to take a bit of time to get staff hired and get them back and get them up to speed. Like you said, we could be in a totally different situation, which could alter things again. So I think I feel more comfortable waiting to see how we look in March. Question to Kyle, how does this affect you? You were commenting when we were talking about the arena and VPCC. How does this affect your full-time staff? Is this going to, any full-time staff at Fusion going to have to be transferred to one of the other locations?
Yeah. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Bowman. The simple answer is yes, because the full-time Fusion staff were already, when VPCC and the arena were open before, they were redeployed to where we were open then.
So they've already got an idea on how it works. Perfect. Thank you.
Where we go here? Councillor Lesser.
I guess I'll say if council wants to defer, I can live with that also. That's fine.
Councillor Van Kutten-Bosens.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the deferral. I think that gives a month to get VPCC and the arena back to where it needs to be, and then or within reason, and then see where we're at for Fusion, because I worry about the school has put kids into cohorts and how we would manage that. I know that you've got a good plan probably, Kyle, but I just I worry about that too. So I'm okay with deferring until March for that one.
Councillor Petrie.
Nope, I don't have anything to further discussion along, so I'm good.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yes, I'm okay with deferring to March. And thank you again, Kyle, for bringing myself anyways from the unknown to the known in regards to what it would take to fire the Fusion back up again.
Councillor Hughes, would it be okay if I, because I just got some notes here, that if I moved it and you seconded it?
Sure, I'm cool with that.
Are you okay with that, sir?
Absolutely, sir.
So we can still discuss on this. All we're doing is just reading the motion, and then we can have any further discussion. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Town of Ingersoll receives report CS-004-21 as information, and that Council provides specific directions to staff on how and when to proceed with reopenings. The arena to open. The arena extended the season to the end of April or with the ice conditions. Victoria Park Community Center to open. The Fusion Center to defer to next month. Does this cover everything that council sees that is in direction? And the question will be multiplied in the fact of asking you, Kyle, directly, is that enough information that you need from us to do what you need to do?
Yes, it's enough information for me. I'll just make it clear, as it's outlined in the report, that the decisions don't become immediate because we have to recall, retrain, and get up to guidelines to be able to reopen. So I gave a rough estimate of how long that would take at minimum. So we'll do our best to be open as soon as we can, but there are factors at play.
Kyle, I'd just like to say, I know there's been comments from councillors right across the board here, and I'd like to add mine. Thank you so much for the report. It was phenomenal. We hope that this is not, we hope that this is a good direction. We're shooting in the dark here to a certain extent, but we just hope that this offsets some of the depression that is out there, and that hopefully that we can kind of get things a little moving, like Councillor Van Kutten-Bosent says. Mentally, we need that recapture of movement, and so hopefully this can trigger some. And I thank you and your staff for what you have done and what you're going to have to do, because I know it's there's a lot out there. Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to, if they're still watching, thank Bill Krajewski and Jason Graham for their participation in the meeting, and definitely appreciate what they had sent to us. But more so, Kyle, your staff, everything that you've been doing, and Bill, with your guidance, and all the rest of the senior staff have been helping each other, and certainly not going unnoticed, and very much appreciated. Thank you.
Any further notes or comments before we vote on? Oh, sorry, Councillor Van Kutten-Bosent.
Thank you, Worship. Kyle, I know that you always try to keep us in the loop. Can you let us know when when things are ready to go so that we are aware, maybe just before the public knows. And then, we have a bit of a heads up. How's that sound?
I can let you know as soon as I know. We have to do, as I mentioned, in accordance with the guidelines, pre-registration. So pre-registration would have to start a week before a reopening. So when we get to that point of announcing a registration, I can inform council.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Kyle.
Any further question or comment at this point in time? Seeing none. Those opposed to this motion? Seeing none. This motion is passed. Okay, we're going to be going into a closed session. I call upon Deputy Mayor Freeman, please.
Well,
Worship.
go ahead.
Your worship, do we not need the motion to receive the delegations as information?
Yes, we do, Councillor Bowman, and I thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. Please,
Thank you, Your
Councillor
worship.
Bowman.
Yes, sir. Moved by myself that Councillor Bowman, that the council for the town of Ingersoll receive the presentation from the Ingersoll and District Minor Hockey Association as information.
Could I have a seconder on this, please? Thank you, Christy. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens. Discussion? Those opposed to this motion? This motion is passed. I thank you. Okay. Deputy Mayor Freeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that council do now go into a closed meeting at 7:32 p.m. pursuant to Section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. Section 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board.
Could I have a seconder on this, please? Thank you, Van Kooten-Bosens. Discussion. Those opposed to this motion? This motion is passed. Thank you. We will see you shortly.
Thank you. Thank you.